The most basic thing is keep it real. If you keep it real, if you keep it grounded, don't try any gimmicky when you are doing experiential, it really connects the chord very well.
It's about driving top of the funnel awareness with large scale events, going deep with hyperlocal or small scale, like more interventional experiences.
Brands just assume that they have to react and be a part of every moment that exists in their consumers' lives. And you don't. You need to do what fits your brand, what's the most authentic, what makes the most sense for, your marketing goals, whether it's brand awareness or bottom of funnel or whatever it is, and do the right thing for that.
I feel what matters even more is the final execution. But these micro moments matter a lot more than what the grand idea is.
So to set some context for this session, I think through the day we've had sessions on storytelling, on AI, on media, on commerce. There's one piece to this mix which is not talked about as often. We experience a lot of we experience a lot of things which are done by brands, but they are not like they're talked about in silos. Probably you see them as a LinkedIn post, or you see them as a Instagram reel or a YouTube shorts. I thought that I'll pick the brains from some of the leaders in the industry to see what is it that they do from an experiential standpoint, and how is experiential so big for the festive season. So opening thoughts, maybe we could start with you, Jayesh, on where do you see experiential in a brand's mix, especially during the festive season, and what is it that experiential can unlock for brands?
Well, very good evening, everyone, and thanks, Hitesh. See, when we talk about experiential, and during the festive especially, the one thing which people keep saying that, there is a lot of clutter when it comes during the festive time. Now, experiential is one thing where you have a direct connect with the audience. And very often, marketeers or the brand tend to kind of match experiential with the sales or with the kind of reach what it generates, which usually not the case. So experiential, if done in a right way with the right emotional connect, it can really create a wonder during festive times, because the sentiments are very, very high during the festive time. People go with the intention of spending, and if you hit the right chord, being at the right place at the right time, then I think wonders can be done on experiential.
Tara, you have something to add to it?
Yeah, for us, we're primarily digital products, right? And we're a product where you're trying to build very, very high trust, because it's a very high stakes product when you look at, a proficiency test. And the best way for us to drive that engagement is through experiences and through in-person communication, community building, all of that. So from a trust building perspective and community development perspective, very, very important to look at experiential as a space.
Naveen.
So for us at Sugar, I think experiential is a need of the category. It's a necessity, if I might put it like that. So for example, our selling happens through a consumer walking into a shopper stop or a lifestyle, trying out that new lip gloss and then experiencing, oh, this is something I want to get into. So I'm just saying the category nature, unlike let's say some other FMCG product where you buy, then you figure out, our sale happens at this moment of truth. So for us, it's been a necessity. So what we've been trying to do also over the course of the last couple of years is this. We've been trying to figure out when we, for example, enter Pujo in Bengal, how do we do something different from when we get to, let's say, a Karwa in the north? And in both of these occasions, we've been trying to do very different things. So maybe we'll talk about that in more detail later. But it's been a critical need of the category. But I think, like somebody remarked, the challenge for something experiential is how do you take this to scale? So that's something with influencers or creators and with, let's say, Instagram / other media, we've been trying to now bridge the gap. So that's where we are.
Got it. And like I think what you said, Jayesh, about festive being like there is a lot of clutter and experiential gives you that room to showcase your brand or connect with emotions. I feel that festive is quite noisy in general. So in your understanding, and anyone can pick the answer on this, what makes an experience truly cultural and authentic, and what is that? What are those two, three things brands should know of while looking at experiential as a medium?
Sure. The most basic thing is keep it real. If you keep it real, if you keep it grounded, don't try any gimmicky when you are doing experiential. It really connects the chord very well. I'll give you one of the example in a recently concluded Ganeshotsav, one of our brand. As Madison, I get an opportunity to work with quite a few brands. And one experiential thing we did for one of the DS group brands, which comes as a Pulse candy. Every year during Dal Bag Cha Raja, we create one booth and, Pulse try to do something different. This time what we did is we create AI Ganesha is what the theme was given there. Now there is a typical believing that there is a mushak in front of the Ganeshji. You go and speak in the ears of the mushak and your wish comes true. What we did is with the voice sensing technology, there are different flavors of pulse which was there in the dispensing machine, and you go and just whisper saying orange pulse, the orange pulse gets dispensed. The pan pulse gets dispatched. So, this is something you keep it very real because people know that, yes, yeah, this is the mushak. Even it's a Divinayak, people go, they trying to whisper inside the mushak's ears, and that is how the thing becomes reality. So if you keep it grounded, if you keep it real, and if you, if the audience can connect it in a right manner, then the experiential really works well. Now, this was something done at Lal Bagh Cha Raja. Obviously, the people who have visited there would know. But then, like how Naveen also just said, that how beautifully you can enhance us digitally through influencer and then anything else is where the game is. And, one more example I would like to give where it's hardly anything what we do, but one of our clients is Shadi.com. Now, Shadi is, known for its quirky communication, which we keep doing. One of the things which we did at Carter Road here in Mumbai, where we created a Sakht Londa made out of ice and kept it at the Carter Road in a broad day sunlight. And with the simple placard next to it saying, Sakht Londa yahan nahi piglega, Shadi.com pe piglega. So that is the kind of communication which is there, it is which drives talkability, because a lot of people go take selfie there, then they post it on their own feed, and then obviously we hire influencer who comes and who talks about it. One of the another simple small example in Lonavala, there is, somebody from the team figured out that there is a lover's point and there is a defined placard which says lover's point left. We just went and kept a right arrow there and saying lovers point left, for rest all Shadi.com right. So there are simple experiential thing which gets amplified digitally and then people start talking about it. So you need not necessarily have a large setup or create inside the airports or the malls or something. Some talkability, if you can drive through experiential, it really helps. And it doesn't require any festive connect, it doesn't require any clutter, or it doesn't require anything else. If you come up with a good thing, it's obviously going to get amplified.
Yeah, so for us, it's very similar to what you said. I think the truth is about the consumer. So if you are going behind any experiential route, the first thing is, does this make any difference to the consumer? If yes, then does it make any difference to their purchase decision in your category? Then go on to do that entire experience that you want to create for them. So just to extrapolate a bit more on what I talked about earlier, there are two large occasions for makeup category for us. So first is, if I talk about East is one of our largest, not for us, for beauty as a category, it's one of the largest markets. In East, if I talk about Bengal per se, Pujo is the largest period in the season where we have sale of the category happen the most, because that's the time, while I'm not from Bengal, from our consumer speak, from a lot of folks around me, what we realize is there are women in that place love to do pandal hopping as they go from one pandal to another. And this is a time everybody likes to dress up well. So what we've done is that when we went to Pujo, when we went to Bengal, we tied up with Mr. Prasunjit, who I'm told there are only two Dadas in Bengal. One is Saurav and then there is Prasunjit. So we tied up with Prasunjit, and what we did is parallelly tied up with a pandal, one of the largest pandals in Bengal. We created a large setup outside a pandal so that for every person who comes to a pandal, there is a sugar experience zone that happens right outside. What also happened along with this is consumers over the course of the month who were shopping for any of our products, there were winners selected from this who were called to the pandal to actually engage with Mr. Prasunjit on that Pujo day. So this created a lot of hype. Unlike other activations, this is something we actually spend media money behind. So we went on to do outdoors, digital, TV, all of that around this, which created a lot of, I would say, consideration during that season period for us, and hence an uptick in sale. But to contrast this with, for example, North, where we do a similar activation during Karwa, which is a large activation for us, it's not a large event. We do a lot of micro interventions where we go to 600 plus stores and counters across the city. We create small makeup artist-led activation because this is the time last-minute purchases happen. So we give them an experience where mehendi is something that women like putting at that time. There is a lot of makeup activity happen. So it's a very small intervention. So we have contrasting things that happen for the experience category during this.
Got it. Tara, I know that there are these major festivals that eat into a brand's marketing budget overall, forget experiential, but overall. And I think those are like tentpole events through the year. Like even this festive season, there is Onam, there is Ganpati, then there is Pujo, Navratri, Diwali, and ongoing. What are, like in your understanding, what are some of those under-leveraged cultural moments that brands should be tapping on? Like under-leveraged cultural moments or micro truths that are very untapped, not really explored, and how is it that you're doing it at DET at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think great question, and absolutely agree with both of the gentlemen on the panel with me. You have to do festive and cluttered marketing moments in the most authentic way for your brand, right? So my brand is a test. The last thing somebody wants to do during a festival is take a test, right? It's not something you're going to see anyone wanting to do on a Diwali or any other festival. It's also the period where we probably see the lowest volume of test takers because it makes sense. But what makes sense for us for festivals is to tap into community, right? For us, students who take the test might be spending their first Diwali away from home. And that's a great opportunity for us to build community. But it's a very low marketing spending moment for us because it's not a volume generator or a great time for purchase. Instead, we look at other opportunities where we would possibly see test-taking volume as places to invest more of our budget, right? So those would be typically periods around, back to college or towards the end of a semester, etc. So that's sort of how the test works. For something like the language app, there's a lot of occasions you can look at for Duolingo, right? So when you think of end of year or New Year's as an occasion, that's a time people want to set new resolutions and they want to sort of build better habits for themselves, and learning a language is a great opportunity for that, right? So we tap into an occasion that maybe not as many people market as aggressively. So we escape some of the clutter that you were talking about, but it's a great opportunity for us to push gifting for a New Year resolution. So, I might give my sister a super subscription because I want her to learn Spanish or something like that. So we've kind of found the right moment for something like that. And there's many other examples. So April Fools is another example of sort of how we've capitalized and made a festival or a moment work for our brand. So you have to find what fits and then build and scale depending on what your goal and objective is.
Absolutely, and I understand.
If I may add to this, the the under leverage kind of festival where where the brands have not leveraged it the way that should have been, because everyone is busy about Pujo, Diwali and all, and we talk about diyas and banters and all those things. But there are quite a few things, and as I said earlier, we have a leverage of working with many other brands, so we have a lot of examples when it comes to this. So Swiggy is one of our client where we work very closely when mainly for Instamart. There are quite a few things which is possible. So Karwa Chauth is something which is very big in North and not here. But, Karwa Chauth is one particular thing. There are a lot of things at the last moment women needed when when they have to break the fast and all. So Instamart connects very well out there. What we did is across Gurgaon, some societies and a lot of societies across Punjab, we created a larger than life, large scale channis from where they see the moon. So the entire society, ladies can come down, they all can be at one place, and this larger than life meaning it's the diameter would be as big as this room size, where they can come, where there is a big diya which is already there inside the channi, and one by one women can come, they pray because the moon is directly visible from out there. And as a community, as a society, everyone gets together. And this entire thing was organized by Swiggy in multiple societies. So it's more than 100 plus societies across northern region where it was done. Now, connecting with Karwa Chauth and a brand, because everyone is busy doing Diwali and Pujo and Ganesh Chaturthi. But these are the kind of, festivals which are there, like in Bihar, Chhat Puja. So experience is very much about hyper-local. It's, we tend to believe that, we do during Diwali, then only it will be pan-India. But there are brands, there are particular things, like Naveen gave an example, East is a very big market for them. There is a particular thing, like of course Pujo is one of the things, but something like that, if suppose someone has a Bihar as a market, they can go to Chhat Puja, and Chhat Puja gives you a lot of opportunity because, there's so many things what you can do it out there. In Maharashtra, there is something called a Pandharpur Yatra, when lakhs and lakhs devotees comes. So that is the time brands leverage that. One of the example during Pandharpur Yatra, which, it comes to my mind when used to do for Tata Chemicals, Tata Consumer, now for Tata Salt as a brand, which says Desh Ka Namak. This devotees walks kilometers and kilometers barefoot to go to that Pandharpur thing and all. What we did is we created a camps in between where they can go. There always be a lukewarm hot water with the Tata Salt inside that. You can go rest your feet for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, rest there, and then you continue your walking, and the entire experience was given to them by Tata Salt. So these are the kind of leveraged festivities or events or, kind of a thing what we can say that brands should leverage when they are going hyperlocal.
I mean, you have anything else to add to this?
No, something similar. I think broadly there are two types of events we look at. One is actual cultural events, which we tie up with, which is Pujo. One of the luxuries in our category is also a lot of these events are also gifting events. So what we have tried to capitalize on gifting events is how can you make kits that are gift worthy? How do you make kits, for example, for Raksha Bandhan, we try to make kits that the brother could gift the sister. Now for Karwa, we have tried to figure out how can you make a gift which let's say you could gift your sister-in-law. Right? So a lot of such combinations is something that we work on, which is one side. Second is we are also trying to create artificial events which make a lot of relevance to you as a company or for the consumer as a category. So like I was just talking about that earlier, which is that Sugar just concluded its 10th birthday. So what we attempted is, while it was our 10th birthday, we've had a lot of our products come, or they exist because the community wanted something. They gave a feedback that, why don't you bring something like this, which I found in US? Why is there nothing that suits my skin type here? So what we did is during our birthday month, had events done across 3 to 5 cities where we called all these early buyers from the brand, people who gave feedback, plus all these creators who post content across. So we had all of these people come in and then experience the future of what we want to bring, and talk about if these are what they saw in 10 years, what would they like the next 10 years be. And when they came there, what we did is beyond talking, we had them just have fun, right? Like what we see today, if you go to the West, is people walk out, the product that they purchase is just a byproduct, right? The experience is what they remember. Instagram is the first place the brand lands on before the product lands in their cart. So we've just been trying to create that experience for consumers here as well.
Got it. So I think both of you have shared examples, and even Tara, you shared examples about how some of these niche moments also led to some relevance for the brand. If we could break it down for the audience here, what is it that a large scale spectacle drives in terms of KPIs, and what is it these hyper local activations drive for a brand? I mean, across, like, if it is, whether it moves brand matrix or it moves performance matrix, because that is a marketer's lens eventually, that what is this activation or what is this experience leading to? Is it leading to building more brand relevance for me, or is it driving some commercial consideration for me? So how do you plan, and how do you break down through the year, if we had to invest in experiential today, what kind of investments I should be doing in terms of large scale events, what kind of investments I should be doing in terms of hyperlocal activations?
Yeah, so to broadly take that question, when we do certain events in certain markets, one of the things is, I think we have these brand scores that come in from different markets. So sometimes we realize that there are markets where your Spont or Tom require an intervention. In some of these markets where these are at question, what we end up doing is, along with a large scale activation, we try to top it up with whichever way of ATL comms that we can do along with it. Okay. The hope is, along with the consideration metric that we are driving with the activation, we are also driving top, which is your awareness. Along with that, whatever consideration scores move. When we do only micro activations, let's say like a Karwa I talked about, what we experience there is instant gratification. So we see that, okay, we did 6 days of this activation across 700 touch points, and our sale during that time became 3x or 5x of what it was before. So there the payoff is faster. The other one, we wait for a brand track report to come and figure out what happen later. Of course, there is a sale that happens. But when you try to do a ROAS between how much you spend versus the outcome, I think that gratification is faster than the other one. But those actions we do a lot more for instant sale gratification, or where you know that consideration metric is at a larger risk. Everybody is aware of the brand. They just are not trying your brand out. Right. Hence, go ahead and give an experience to them, which will now make them believers. So that's largely how we look at it.
Yeah, I think just adding to what Naveen was saying, because I agree with everything, right? Like from brand surveys and sort of how you look at it. If I looked at a large scale activation, primarily the goal out of that would be to drive that top of funnel awareness, right? So it is as big an audience as possible should know that I've done something really cool and what my brand is, right? But is that a person who might necessarily purchase? Maybe, maybe not. But it's helping make my brand more famous. By doing that, it's at least helping people who would purchase the test know I exist, right? So a large activation, which would be a sizable portion of your investment, would obviously need a way of taking that offline experience to online and then blowing it out of the park, right? So that's where you would expect to see some sort of brand metric spike, right? So either spike in top of funnel awareness, impression, something in those scales, right? What we would also call a lot of vanity metrics, because it's not necessarily driving conversion. For something like the Diwali community events that I'm talking about, these are hyper small local events that I would be doing with study abroad students in, maybe in the US or UK or wherever they're studying. These would be at max 100 students, right? But the metric that I would use for something like that is this driving some level of positive word of mouth and referral for me? Why would this be important? Because finding a student willing to study abroad is like a needle in a haystack in this market, right? It's 2 million students out of this country per year, if not less. And the student that is sitting in the US already is the most likely to have a strong community of that cohort. So a referral from them is most likely going to convert and has that highest conversion. So that would be a very clear bottom of funnel metric that we would track, but much lower investment in terms of the scale, size, amplification, because that word of mouth is it being shared on a WhatsApp channel with their friends.
Right. And so I get it. I mean, that in both of your understanding, it's about driving top of the funnel awareness with large scale events, going deep with hyper local or small scale like more interventional experiences. Jayesh, if I had to pick your brain on this, and because I think a bunch of examples that you gave were around experiences which either found a lot of legs with digital, and there were more examples on how technology also played a role. So how do you see these moving the brand matrix, and what role has technology played in this whole reinvention of experiential?
So when we talk with various brands, the main thing is if your KPI is more about, or rather your KPI should be about the awareness and the consideration, then you can do it experiential in a right manner with the kind of objective what you have set for the brand. The moment you'll start linking your experiential campaign or a marketing with the sales, because like Naveen also said that, at the end they measure the sales, whether it's 3x, 5x or whatever. But if you go with the intention that I want to do this activity because I want to make my sale 3x, then it gets very difficult. Then the entire marketing thing funnels out and the commercial comes into the picture. And then you start comparing and treat this media like a commodity. So, as a agency, when we go and pitch to the client and then we talk about experiential or our outdoor for that matter, we clearly said that please have your objective very, very clear. If sales is your objective, then we will propose you something which will help you drive your sales. But if you want to do experiential, then, awareness and the consideration should be at the higher point because we will help you drive talkability around it. So that is how the entire game is set. If the sales is the thing, you have top of line many other media which will help you drive your sales. That you have top line other medias also, and even within out of home category, if I have to see, in out of home we keep actual outdoor as ATL and experiential as BTL within outdoor. So if primarily you're going to treat it like a commodity and the sales is the only objective what you want to achieve, then you might as well do ATL, which will help you achieve your goal. But when you are doing experiential, the idea should be awareness and consideration is what I feel.
So I think I've set the baseline. I understand that where experiential plays a role in a brand's mix, and I think you all have shared a good bunch of examples from your work. But if you had to pick one big experiential campaign that you felt really worked for a brand, what is that campaign and why do you think it? What is that campaign and what do you think did it drive for the brand? Tara, you want to take a shot?
I would say recently one of the examples I'd seen was with Squid Game, when the India team sort of created a live influence experience of Squid Game. And I thought that was really cool because it's kind of taking your entire show IP and making it into something that people can live, breathe, and feel, but also, kind of growing a very different audience because it's, ultimately a relatively niche show in some ways, right? But it became all about the games and not necessarily the storyline and all of that, right? So I think they built a very different culture, right? Like they were able to, through things like this, create outfits, right? And create IP that they were selling with other brands. And they really built a offline IP out of a TV show, which I thought was really, really cool. And I think that drove some volume in terms of merchandise purchase and all of those kind of things. So I thought very interesting way of doing experiential.
Okay, I'll just talk about an example within our org which something worked really well for us. Is that Nike after a long time was coming back to India. And as they came back to India, they wanted to do two things. One is I think during the Tata Mumbai Marathon, they put out a hoarding here, which is actually sponsored by somebody else in this. That's one announcement. The second was in Mumbai, in the city we are in Bombay, they had an After Dark tour, which is for the first time Nike was doing a run for women, a 10K run for women, which is going to happen after the sun sets, right? That was about talking about a lot of stigma associated with whatever otherwise happens in the city, right? Or in the country. So we partnered, Sugar partnered with Nike during the After Dark tour. The idea there was not brand first, but consumer first. Because Nike for this event was looking at 25-year-olds who have not run before. So their TG was not folks who've run marathons before, who are running it for the first time. And I think about 74% of the folks who actually ended up running were those. So we tied up with them, and the idea was simple. For all these women coming for the event, could we create an experience which doesn't look like a brand plug, but is a part enabling their journey? So in fact, we were part of, there were trial runs happening every weekend for 6-8 weekends before that, where every Sunday morning people were catching up in fields, just with coaches who were enabling women to run. So we were there, and because the runs were happening at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 10, we had our booth where we were providing sunscreens for women who want to just pick it up and run. Instagram post booths where they could just post about it. At the run, on the day of the run, what happened is, after the entire run, when they came, there was a after party for the run. So at the after party before the run, because women had just run and come in, we had a booth where people could walk in, get a quick touch up, a blush or an eyeliner, whatever they could take up and get in. So what happened there is, there was not a product sale. We didn't even sell a single product from that venue, right? What happened is, we gave people tiny sunscreen with charms on them, which they could carry back and talk about, because people love charms today, right? But what eventually happened is, we had our partners calling us from Delhi saying, hey, this product we did not know you had launched. Why haven't you shipped it to us? Get it up ASAP. We had partners where this product was already launched, but they said, hey, we saw a lot of women talk about this. Why we need our volume estimates for the month to go up 3x, right? Which was not an intended outcome, right? The intended outcome was just to engage with our consumers, these women who we believed we wanted to give a great experience. So I think that's one experience for us that stood out over the last few months.
I actually wanted to build on this example just to be devil's advocate, because I think I loved Sugar's angle to it. I loved 90% of the activation. My challenge, and this is just to point the level of detailing that needs to go in when it is experiential, right? Because at the end of it, your goal is to drive brand love. And to achieve that, you want to make sure that the experience end to end is amazing for the 30,000 people that attended, right? So I think Nike did a fabulous job of kind of building out a message, right? Which was that whole after dark piece. They did a fabulous job of the kind of partnerships that they drove, like the Sugar example. But the failing with that was they did it in May, right? Which is the hottest time to run a 10K. And that leaves something to think about, right? Which is, if you want to run a 10K, sorry, I'm a runner, so I feel very passionate about this topic, is for that experience to be absolutely out of the park, they should have picked the right time, right? And there were a lot of people that would have then spoken about it offline who were like, it was really uncomfortable, it was really humid, it was all of that. So it killed a little bit of that amplification that they would have loved from an organic perspective. But all of the other things were actually bang on. So it was like they missed that one mark, which hurts that brand love narrative that could have built it further. But I love the Sugar part, so it's...
I think that's a great input. I think this year how this happened for Nike was that this was happening across continents, and they had this tie-up saying over
Timing
this 10, 20, 30 days, right from US to Australia, we have these runs happening. But I think it's a great input. And if not through this, I'll separately pass this on as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that you need to think of, especially when you're localizing global initiatives, right? Is at the end of the day, we're a hot country, right? So our marathons start at 5 a.m. In the US, it starts at 8. And that's just the nature of the weather, you know? And if you're trying to do something experiential, that's the push the local teams need to bring to the table.
Jayesh, you had some example of an experiential campaign that you really loved and you were like, this has moved some metrics for the brand. I know you don't believe in those outcomes.
It would be very difficult for me after working with 100 plus brands simultaneously to pick one which is like a kind of a favorite or something. But as a category, if I would say experiential campaigns or a marketing or activation rather, if I may put it so, which has been done very well, and every other automobile company is doing it. So automobile as a category is using activation or experiential quite extensively, and depending on the price point of the vehicle, be it two-wheeler, be it four-wheeler. They decide on the point like malls or a airport, and we all have seen, kind of cars getting displayed out there. What I feel is the way to sell a car is, obviously whoever is a serious intender purchaser does take a test drive and feels a car. But even if you are just intending to purchase and it has been hit to you at the right kind of a touch point, be it airport or be it mall, you will make it a point to go sit inside, feel the luxury, feel the comfort, see the statistics, technicality and all that. And, more often rather than airport at malls, malls is a more of a family destination touch point in our out of home language, where, due to lack of the spaces where families and the kids can go, more often on Sundays, families ending up going to malls. So that is where it hits the right chord. So for me, automobile is a category, is using it fantastically, and they are getting great results out of that.
Interesting. And if you had to, and like this is for everyone again, if you had to break down one myth about experiential marketing that essentially separates good experiential from great, what would that be? Yes, you could.
Well, for me, one myth is if you think that experiential will give you reach, then it won't. It's the lowest reach medium. It is only going to reach to a limited number of people. But like how Tara said that in their category, it's like about 100, 200 people, students abroad. It's talkability, word of mouth is what is going to drive it further. And as I said earlier, it's about the setting up the right KPI, about the consideration. That is what, if you have it in mind, then yes. But people often tend to mistake marketeers, especially who are very, very habitual to getting impressions in millions and, reaching, mass reach and all. Experiential will never give you that mass reach.
Yeah, I think on my end, it's kind of related to just overall festival marketing as well as then the experiential angle to it, is you don't have to be on everything, right? So I think in the day and age of social media, brands just assume that they have to react and be a part of every moment that exists in their consumers' lives. And you don't. You need to do what fits your brand, what's the most authentic, what makes the most sense for, your marketing goals, whether it's brand awareness or bottom of funnel or whatever it is, and do the right thing for that. Whether that's a scaled activation that's, driving a large engagement, or if it's something small that's very niche and sort of playing into that pattern. So you do not have to be everywhere all the time, or whatever the line is, but something like that.
I get that. I mean,
so with respect to experiential, the way I look at it is, of course, be it outdoor, be it TV, be it digital, I think everywhere, once you have a great idea, once you've made the film, once you've made the creative, it goes out, and then you just ensure you're at the right spots. With experiential, I feel what matters even more is the final execution. Because here, after the brand, after we've had great ideas, there are those 10 people standing in, let's say, that mall in Goregaon and delivering it. However great or fabulous the idea was, one moment where a consumer walks in and somebody did not talk to that person, you've lost the consumer, right? Which is not the case with outdoor, which is not the case with TV, which is not the case, because there's a human element into this, which is why I keep telling, when we do a lot of these events with the team also, these micro moments matter a lot more than what the grand idea is. So that's one thing, like, we take double click on every time we do an event.
Ideas die on execution.
I'll just like to add on what he's saying, and he's absolutely right. In OH, we have kind of found one media which was never been branded, and we thought that, this is a great opportunity, one could brand it. And these are the buggies at the airport, which is meant for business class and first class, and also for the senior citizen and pregnant ladies and all that. You have seen, must have seen the buggies at the airport. Now, all these buggies at airports like Mumbai, Bangalore are branded with Lodha. Lodha is a real estate client and they've branded it because Lodha stands for luxury, comfort and all that. Very often, the kind of complaints what we get from Lodha is saying there are a lot of people who travel and all, who knows MDs and various senior people quite well and all, most of the time because the guys who are operating are all those airport staff. So more often they obviously cannot cater to 100% of the audience who is going out there. So there's so many times, there's so many people who wants to take a buggy because we know how our Mumbai terminals are and when you get down from the flight, how long you have to walk. They don't stop it because half of the time they are full or they say that किसी और को pick up करने जाना है या something like that. And then they directly call up the client saying, आपका वो जो buggy है ना वो मेरे लिए रुका नहीं. And they are doing this. So experiential, yes, when the human thing is involved and all, they don't just understand that this is the media. They think that this brand only given this service and they are operating it. So very rightly said that, wherever there's a human element involved, there's a high risk involved as well. Hyderabad airport, we had the similar buggies for Prestige Real Estate, which is one of the largest real estate client of Bangalore, from Karnataka. They had taken the same buggies. They've run it for 1 year, and on August 31st, they've discontinued because of the same problem. Saying our MD is getting call from various people saying they are not stopping for me, how dare they can do this. So, yeah, just seconding your point, that's it.
Yeah. So I think we'll quickly wrap this up because time is also up. One last piece of advice for marketers in the room from an experiential point of view, from a festive standpoint, or if you want to give a larger one, like a broader one, that's also okay.
So the larger thing with out of home as an advertising or OOH is how they call it. Very often these days with the new digital age and all, and especially with the age group very similar to the audience what I have here, I often get that question, does people do outdoor? Does hoarding still exist? Is anyone same, I think this generation would be feeling about the newspaper also the similar way. Does anyone read newspaper? Nobody reads newspaper these days, or maybe my dad does, or maybe my grandfather does, or something like that. I often get that thing for outdoor as well, people who, kind of not heard about it, and, acha, outdoor, oh, abhi bhi chalu hai. That is the kind of a thing. Let me just tell you one statistics which is there in outdoor in India takes about 6% pie in overall edX. But the growth rate of outdoor in India is about 12%, which is double than the global growing rate of the outdoor, which is at 6%. So India outdoor is growing fantastically. The main reason is in past 10 years, the kind of infrastructure boom what we had in our country. So we had about 77 airports 10 years back. Right now we have 137 airports. There are 11 cities where the metros is up and running. There are malls and multiplexes which are saturated in metro cities and to an extent in tier 1 which are expanding to tier 2 cities. So, the canvas for outdoor has expanded drastically. There are more and more brands who want to come in. And as a lifestyle, if we take it, we take our own example, we can relate that how much time we are spending out of home versus what we are spending at home. So with the new lifestyle and all, people tend to go out more often. You go to cafes, restaurants, malls, workplace, metro trains, airports, leisure travel. So there are so many touch points. It just depends on what kind of an audience you are targeting. There are always a right movement and a right touch point where you can target them in a right manner. So there are high dwell time as well, and there are on highways, I would say, where the dwell time is not more than 2.5 seconds. That is a typical creative thing which we say that it's a 2.5 second media. So you decide what do you want to say in this 2.5 second. But there are high dwell time media as well. So this is one particular advertising domain, I would say, or a media, which is growing very, very fast. And this is one of the oldest medium of advertising and the only medium, whether you like it or not, but it's unskippable. If you are driving on the road and there is a billboard right in front of you, you are not going to shut your eyes. Everywhere else, you tend to go for something else and advertisement comes in between. You open newspaper for the news, you go to television for the content, you go to digital media for various other things. Never ever I have seen just opening their phone, today I just want to watch 5 ads. Nobody does that. You are watching always something else and ad comes in between. Outdoor is the only medium. If you are going to look at it, you know for sure that you are only going to look at advertising and still you are looking at it. So it is not meant for anything else but for the advertising consumption, and that is what it is. So that will be my final submission. Thanks.
Yeah, mine is very simple around experiential, right? When you create an experience, it's like the service industry, right? Like it is, every single touch point needs to be perfect for that consumer to have a good experience, right? That one little thing, the person at the registration desk who took too much time and was frustrating, or somebody who gave them a wrong piece of information or the wrong shade card or whatever it is, that small mistake will hurt that entire experience you've created for a consumer. It is concentrated and niche, right? So you do not need to crowd and fill the room. You just need the right people in the room that you want to engage with. So pay attention to the detail and treat your consumer as king, right? This is the one time you see them as a real living human being, and you need to sort of customize your experience to make it perfect for them in that moment and make them a true believer in your brand. So yeah, simple, perfect, small.
For me, I think the advice would be going back to two core advices or principles, fundamentals I was taught when I stepped into this world of marketing. One is, I think, consumer always trumps awards. So when you go through the season now, there'll always be those really fancy ideas, and there'll be something that will really work for your consumer. Always please keep asking, is this something that will mean something to my consumer? Everything else will happen later, business, awards, if it matters. So that's just one thing, one principle I keep going back to. The second thing is, a lot of ideas are made sitting in AC boardrooms in the office, and you'll have to be really sure this means something to your consumer again. So, but just going back to with an example, one of my early days, we were making a campaign for Kerala. And of course, when you're making something for Kerala, it has to have an elephant. It will have some references of Onam, right? Like this is what Bombay thinks Cochin is, right? So when you now have to make for Cochin something, there are those micro moments happening in Cochin which must be something referring to the current political turmoil. There will be some movie references that's come out. So the reality is when you're going to make experiential marketing-led events, which is going to be even more local, get the ground consumer reality right. Because if you go wrong there, you've lost the consumer before even starting the event, right? So these are two things which I think holds true again, be it experiential or large ATL campaigns. But I go back to these two mantras every time when I'm in doubt.
Very well put. I think each of the advices that you shared make a lot of sense, and I think this bit of localized experiences, I was checking out brand posts on Onam. Most of it, like 90% of it, is very generic. There is a robot, there is Onam Sadhya, and that is it. But I saw Paper Boat had this image of a hand with some, like when you slurp food after the Sadhya, the end of it, there is some mark that is left on your hand. So Paper Boat had that image saying that I miss these days, like some kid's journey and so on. And that was, I think, very well made, and it was quite nuanced. And the post didn't perform as well on Social Samosa, and I was telling the team that probably not everyone got that reference because we are catering to India-wide audiences, and this is just a very cultural nuance, which probably someone who has Sadhya on a day-to-day, not on a day-to-day basis, but very often would know of that nuance. So thank you so much, Jayesh, Tara, and Naveen for spending time here.